Again, welcome everyone to this week's show, if you will, where we're going to talk everything about the protection component of your overall plan, the investment component of your overall plan, and then always looking at the tax implications to anything that you are doing financially. Always going to try to talk the truth, the facts, and what I believe regarding the conventional wisdom of whether it be retirement planning, estate planning, legacy planning, whatever it may be, where I believe the conventional wisdom is just wrong. If you're running with the herd, really take a look around and see what you're doing, because you probably ought to be going the opposite direction. Happy to be pressed and or press anyone on that conventional wisdom regarding what people are telling you to do with respect to your financial well-being. To me, it's very simple. I think there's the protection component of your overall plan, the investment component of your overall plan, and then the tax component that erodes or potentially can erode anything that you're doing. From a disclosure standpoint, hey, the material shared during my show is prepared for informational purposes only. It's not intended, I'm not intending to tell you exactly what to do and for you to go out there and do it. Don't rely on me. Go talk to your tax, legal, CPA, or whoever is handling your accounting. You should consult your own tax, legal, and those types of advisors before engaging in any type of transaction or product or strategy or whatever it may be. So there's my little disclosure there. I'm going to share my screen, throw up a little bit of video that if you're working with me wherever in the country, you'll probably get this. It's just a little video that came out or is about to come out through my website. And, it may spark a little bit of conversation regarding that word retirement.
The retirement years are often called the golden years, a time to rest from the rigors of a job, with ample time to explore hobbies, passions, and even the world. But in recent years, the attitude toward retirement has been shifting, and expectations for those golden years are evolving. Today, 68% of workers plan to work for pay during their retirement. Not entirely out of necessity. In fact, 81% of retirees do so because they find it rewarding. Other reasons people choose to continue to work include staving off boredom, keeping a sense of purpose, and maintaining insurance benefits. About half of all workers plan on working into retirement just to stay active. The bottom line is this: when Americans think of retirement, they think of freedom and enjoyment. How do you define retirement? It's never too soon to brush on the first few strokes of your future dreams.
That word retirement, there's whatever there may be, 20, 25 people here today. Everyone has their different definition, if you will, of what retirement may be. And feel free to throw that out there if you want to tell me what your definition is. I can tell you that mine, I've spent the better part of 20 years telling people I really don't believe in the word. I don't really plan on retiring. I enjoy what I do, so I continue to want to continue to work with people all over this great country to make sure that they are as tax efficient as possible with the dollars that they make. I tell people a lot, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. And from a tax standpoint, if you understand the IRC tax code and can work within it, then getting to as close, if not all the way there, to a 0% tax bracket in retirement, I believe is very possible and likely if you can follow a number of guidelines, if you will, that the IRC allows us to do. So again, today, let's do a little bit of Q&A. From a recap standpoint, last week I had Paul Haven, my personal and private banker that I've been working with for about 15 years. Paul gave us some insight last week on the banking industry, some of the banking failures, where he believes the industry's going. He's been in that industry here in Gainesville, Florida, which is where I'm at for the better part of almost 40 years. We talked a little bit about the bank, the failures, where things are going, what the Fed rates are going to do. And again, all of that just goes back to what the government is doing. If you haven't, or if you weren't able to see that, again, pick it up on the YouTube channel. It was pretty good. We went every bit of an hour, so give yourself some time there. and take it in at some point in time. Today, let's just do a little bit of an Ask Me Anything. You guys are obviously here to glean a nugget or two. So let's look to help as many people as we can while we're here. I recognize a lot of the names that are here today. Some I know a little bit of exactly what you have going on in your financial lives, and at least at this time, if there's something out there that from an investment standpoint, from an insurance standpoint, from a tax strategy standpoint, alternative investments, let's talk about it. Throw the questions in the Q&A. If you don't mind, the chat is disabled. If you don't ask me about the Miller Lite commercial, if you haven't seen it, because I don't want to talk about it. If you haven't seen it, YouTube it. It's interesting. As I prepare for this show during the morning hours of Tuesdays, I have a TV to my left. Not going to get into the political environment, but my TV station doesn't really come off Fox News. Some of the stuff that comes out or is coming out with regarding all kinds of stuff is head scratching, to say the least. I'll just share a little bit of information with you guys just to kind of get the talk going. I'm going to try not to use any names here, but enjoyed a conversation I've recently had with a family member that is spent the better part of the last 30-40 years working for a living. There's been a number of times that I've provided information and my insight. The different realities that are going on in this country, whether it be the far right or the far left, the left versus the right, and what about just extreme thinking? I wouldn't say that my thoughts are extreme, but I would tell you that I have a deep belief that the answer to this question, do you believe marginal income tax rates are going to be higher or lower in the future? I have a deep belief that they're going to be higher. So I start a lot of my conversations off with that question. And when people tell me that the tax rates are going to be higher in the future, then you have to start questioning yourself if you're using any type of tax deferral or tax postponement at this time. You guys have heard me talk about Ted Benna was the gentleman that invented the 401k plan back in 1978. And I've been telling people that in 1986, when Ronald Reagan cut those tax rates, the highest was 70% in this country, and it became 28, and the low became 15, that the 401k plan became obsolete in 1986. And that's a head scratcher for a lot of people, because obviously most people are told, go to school, get a degree, get out, get a job, and go max out your 401k plan, which I think is absolutely in the worst interest of anyone to do. It's in the best interest of the government. So as I continue to talk again, this person I'm talking to, they may have $500,000 or $600,000 in a tax deferral account, about the same amount over on the other side. They're 2 or 3 years away from retiring and asking my advice. And I actually don't think that scenario is in that bad a shape when you've got about maybe half your money in one pocket in your jeans that is taxable, and the other pocket is in a tax-free environment. That's actually a lot better than most people in this country. Most of the people that engage as a client of mine, it's not a 50-50 split. They have a lot of money in a taxable environment, meaning 401k, traditional IRA, money that they've never paid the government on. And therefore, we continue to talk about using the IRC tax code to their benefit and trying to convert as much of that money over a period of time over into the Roth area, or that thing that nobody ever wants to talk about. Well, not ever, but the thing that most people don't want to talk about is that thing called permanent life insurance and how it can be used as a tax strategy. So as the conversation unfolded, with this individual, I just said, hey, you're really not in that bad of a shape from a 50-50 standpoint. They're over the age of 59 and a half. Therefore, they can go and get the money without the penalty as soon as they retire. And then as the conversation unfolded regarding, well, there's the Roth, there's permanent life insurance, there's your HSA account. And outside of that, the only other thing that allows you to grow the money tax-free, and then take it back out and never pay taxes, you really have four. You have an HSA account, you have your Roth IRA, you have permanent life insurance, and then you have that thing called asset-based long-term care. Structured appropriately, those are the four environments that you can access money without paying taxes on it. Again, I'm continuing to talk, and I'm hoping you guys will engage a little bit today. So with that little backdrop that I've just talked about, and I can share a little bit more, again, if you've got some questions out there, whether it be, why do we talk so much about life insurance? Throw it out there. If you have questions regarding what's that thing, why do you keep talking about asset-based long-term care, which is a video out on my YouTube channel that I did a complete webinar on. But if you have questions on that, throw it out there. Tax strategies that I use personally, if you have some questions on that, that's fine. What's my plan on retirement, or at least being financially stable in my elder years, which are long into the future. I'm not even close to elder years, in case you're wondering. Again, let's have a little bit of fun on the Q&A. We'll go as long as we need to go with some of that stuff. Anyone out there at this time, I can get some Q&A that came in the last week, but I'd rather go live today. So I'm going to be quiet, and it's almost one of those things like in class. Don't make me have to call on you if you can get around that. So anyone have anything going on that they want to talk about? What do you have going on in your life that possibly is concerning you, or that you would like to discuss and glean some information from other people? Question here, good question, really good question actually. Seriously considering getting an infinite banking account set up, who do you recommend I go with? From an infinite banking standpoint, or banking on yourself, obviously, I understand the concept very, very well. I use the concept, and I've used it for the better part of 2 decades. If you're talking about a carrier and you're talking about banking on yourself, or using an IVC life insurance policy, mutual company, number one. Okay, so I would highly recommend choosing a mutual company. Number two, most insurance carriers have been around 100, 150, 200 years, and you'll hear me say that they're all pretty much the same. As long as you do business with a AAA rated company, then you're going to be fine. However, then you have to peel back a layer. Then I'm going to dial it in real easy for you. There are 3 carriers out there that I would recommend. And the reason I recommend these 3 carriers, and I'll tell you who they are. One is Mass Mutual, the other one is Lafayette Life, and the third one is One America. All 3 of those companies offer what is called a non-direct recognition whole life policy. And that's a mouthful. And you'll never hear most insurance agents or you'll never hear a financial advisor talk about it, because they have no idea how insurance works most of the time. But a non-direct recognition whole life policy is what you want to use. The reason you want to use that is the way that the company treats your policy loans, where they continue to give you interest and dividend crediting on all of your cash value inside the policy. Personally, I'm a big fan of One America out of Indianapolis, Indiana. They get probably 90% of all the business that I do personally from my clientele throughout the country. They are a mutual company. They do pay their dividend. They do pay their interest crediting into the policy, and they are a non-direct recognition company. They check all the boxes for me. And then it depends on your situation. So if you're thinking about an infinite banking policy, my assumption is that you actually have the appropriate amount of protection to protect the future survival of your family. God forbid something were to happen to you, that your wife and or children or whoever relies on you to make or provide for them are going to be perfectly taken care of if something were to happen to you. If that's not the case, you shouldn't be looking at an IBC policy. That's the answer to that question. It's a good question. And if you want if you want to go a layer deeper, feel free to reach out. Happy to talk with you about that or help you in that area if that's really where you want to go. And then lastly, I would say, depending on what you want to do with that, is it an investment vehicle that you're looking to use your policy for? Is it a debt reduction policy that you're looking to use that for, meaning to pay down debt or pay off debt, or using it as an investment. So, and I'm going to put quotes around the word investment, because when people talk about, when people try to compare investments to insurance, then you'll hear me say insurance is not an investment. Insurance is a strategy to work against your investments not working out. Because if it's properly designed, properly crafted, and properly funded, your permanent life insurance policy will, it will stand the test of time. It will be an uncorrelated asset to everything else that you're using. And again, as long as it's properly designed and then you properly fund it, then it will end up operating exactly how it was designed in your overall situation. Good question. Your question on the infinite banking concept is, I'll just be very direct. I can certainly help you with that. No, you cannot go directly to the company to put one of those in place, nor would you want to. And the reason why I say that is the sales desks at carriers, at insurance carriers, do not design infinite banking type policies. You need to work with you don't need to work with me, but you need to work with someone like me who understands how to design those policies to capture exactly what you're looking to do, whether it be the investment or the tax deduction or whatever it may be. And I'll just talk a little bit more about this. If you have not read the book, The Power of Zero by David McKnight, I didn't write the book. It was written by a guy by the name of David McKnight back in 2014. If you have not read the book, Power of Zero, then you go get it. It's going to cost you $12 on Amazon. I shipped one out to a young family member of mine that has been in the work environment for 3 or 4 years now and is quite frankly doing things the wrong way. Again, Power of Zero. Power of Zero does not talk about the infinite banking concept. It talks about something called a LIRP, L-I-R-P, a life insurance retirement plan, which my entire financial practice almost is built off of that book. It was only written in 14. It wasn't like it came out 25 years ago, but the information in that book runs completely parallel with everything that I've been talking about for the better part of 25 years. So highly recommend the book. To be blunt, I almost, if I don't know you, or if you reach out to me and say, hey, I'm interested in working with you, the first thing that will happen is I will send you the book. I will buy the book. I buy it through Amazon. I ship them out through Amazon. I used to send them out of my office, but it just makes more sense and it's easier for Amazon to do all the heavy lifting. What I tell people is read the book, and then let's have a conversation, because it will start to kind of turn your brain inside out a little bit about the conventional wisdom and what you should and or should not be doing. And then the entire book is based on getting to a 0% tax bracket in retirement. And can you do that? And the answer is yes. And then it's just a matter of the time window that we have to get there. Most financial advisors do not understand life insurance, and there's a fair amount of life insurance agents that don't understand life insurance either, especially when you're looking to design them for an IBC or a life insurance retirement plan, a LIRP. Deanna says, I heard Mass is no longer offering IBC. Is that true? Deanna, that is true. And when I say that, IBC is a concept. There's not a life insurance policy out there that is called an infinite banking concept policy. The funny thing about what you're referring to there, Deanna, is Mass Mutual brought out a product a number of years ago, and I'm not beating up on Mass Mutual. Again, they're one of 3 companies that I believe people should continue to work with when they're looking for this type of environment. Mass Mutual just kind of shot themselves in the foot. They offered a policy a number of years ago that was specifically designed to have high cash value accumulation within the first few years of the policy, which, if you think about that, that's an IBC type of policy. And then they came back out about a year ago, I think, and decided that they weren't going to offer the policy anymore. So not really sure why they did that. And it may be because it may go hand in hand with what I just said. There's a lot of life insurance agents out there or people that are licensed that just don't understand how to design those types of policies. And it may have been bad for the carrier from a persistency, keeping those policies on the books. Life insurance companies are incredibly profitable. They make a tremendous amount of money, but they do need to keep that business on the books for them to continue the profits. So good question, Deanna, in regards to Mass Mutual, and hopefully I answered that. What are the positive and negatives with putting a whole life insurance banking policy into an irrevocable family trust? Really good question. If you haven't got to know me by now, I speak pretty emphatically. I have deep beliefs in a number of different areas, and this is probably one of them. Putting a whole life insurance banking policy, so let's just call it's an IBC policy. When you put that into an irrevocable trust, then in my humble opinion, you're losing control. Irrevocable means you give up control over it. Someone else has control over it. And sure, you could appoint a trustee and maybe they're in the same frame of mind with you and they want to use the cash value to pay off debt and invest or whatever it may be. Remember, I think there are two areas to work in. You can work in what I call sophisticated confusion, which that is a sophisticated confusion world. Taking a whole life policy, an IBC policy, putting it in an irrevocable trust and still wanting to try to use it as a banking policy, to me, is sophisticated confusion. I would rather you stay in mature simplicity. I don't know if you're worth $1 or 100 million, but when you start putting things into irrevocable trust, it's because that's an estate planning technique. It's to minimize your estate. It's to get things out of your name. It's to reduce the amount of wealth that your estate possibly could be taxed by the government. And if you're talking about doing irrevocable, that word to me is, I'm going to be mentioning that to you if you're in your 60s or 70s or 80s and you have an incredibly high net worth and you're concerned about the government taxing your estate, which right now, again, the unified credit is still $24 million for a married couple. What are the positive negatives? There's a whole lot of negatives regarding slipping a policy into an ILIT, an irrevocable life insurance trust, ILIT, which is really what you're talking about there. Positives, it just gets the policy out of your estate. Therefore, the death benefit of the cash value would not be able to be taxed by the government. Pretty direct question there, depending on what you're dealing with the estate. I have several financial and tax advantage things in play. Multiple IBC policies I'm aware of, real estate investments I'm aware of, all-in simple interest mortgage on my home, but I don't know that I have them working efficiently together. Looking for someone who can help me strategize these things towards our goals, suggestions. Leslie, you and I met probably every bit of 2 years ago. And I know you had a lot of balls in the air at that time. I would go jump on the calendar with me and let's talk about it individually. I know that you've also taken the risk of any type of catastrophic health event that would jeopardize your estate off the table, which is great too. Got a number of things buttoned up and you've done a really good job in that area. So if you're looking to strategize and bringing those things kind of together, I think between myself and my team that I've put around me, we can help you with that. Go to sterlingwyatt.com. That's my website, Sterling, STERLING, Wyatt, WYATT.com. And you can get to my Calendly link and it will give you the availability to meet with me on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. So I don't do client meetings on Monday and I don't work Fridays. So I'm available pretty much 8 to 5, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, except when I'm sitting here on this webinar. I block this part off. Question, I'm a full-time W-2 employee. I also have an LLC that I mostly loan out money via PMC, and which creates additional income. Awesome. That said, it doesn't create much in tax deductions to help with taxes as it is more passive suggestions. Love the fact that you have an LLC, and I think you and I have had a cup of coffee at some point in time. You got to try to get, obviously, the more income or the more revenue you can get into the LLC, the more tax advantages that you're going to be able to have. Can't remember if you can get any kids or grandkids onto the salary or paying them through the LLC, but just depending on ages. You can hire your kids put them on the payroll depending on their ages. I'll just round it up to even numbers. You can pay kids over the age of maybe 12, 13, about $14,000 a year. Underneath that, I would cut that into half, make it about $7,000 a year. You set up the appropriate different custodial accounts or family management accounts at your bank to be able to put that money into. Obviously, it creates an expense to the company. Children don't have to pick it up or file a tax return, so it's pretty much tax-free income to them. If you have kids and or grandkids, you're paying for sports, you're paying for private school, you're paying for all kinds of different things that you can use those dollars for. You can use the Augusta rule through your LLC, where you can rent your home out 14 different times per year, put it under a contract, keep your family notes or your business notes in regards to that strategy also. Doesn't create much tax deductions. I'm going to tax more passive, especially Yeah, if you're only using that LLC from a passive investment standpoint, again, it just depends on what the net revenue is regarding your LLC and the amount of dollars that are going through there. Well, there's a number of other strategies that I would just need to see what the P&L and what the balance sheet looks like on the LLC. Looking to set up trusts, holding companies, and LLCs. Can you help me with that? I'm trying to get all my ducks in a row. Yes, I can help you with that, Deanna. I've got a couple different LLCs that hold real estate holdings in regarding trust. Just depends on where you're at in the country. Jill, you have no kids. I have 3. You want one of mine? I have a 17-year-old I'd love to give you. Just kidding. I love my kids, all 3 boys. So Deanna, holding companies, trust, just depends on what you're looking to do. But I will say this, if for everybody on here, if you have not done your estate documents, then a little bit of shame on you. And this is where I can give you what I've been telling people for 20 plus years. Your will, living will, durable power of attorney, healthcare directives, and a revocable living trust, and maybe even a pour over will. I would highly recommend everyone on this call to either A, get your estate documents in order, or B, if you have not updated them and they need to be updated, go update them. I'm in the state of Florida. It's very easy for me to help people down here because I have 3 or 4 different relationships with high-level estate planning attorneys. I do have connections all over the country in different states, just depends on where you're at, where I can introduce you to or make a favorable introduction to an estate planning attorney that I know a little bit about. Florida is very, very easy for me. I just updated mine almost a year ago with my wife. It took me all of about 2 weeks. Everything was over Zoom with an attorney, and I drove across town to wet sign them. Those 5 documents: will, living will, durable power of attorney, healthcare directives, pour over will, and a revocable living trust. My wife and I did a family trust and then retitled all of our assets over to it. If you haven't done it, it really all rolls up into one word, and that's just denial. You're in denial of your mortality, which is a good thing. That's the way God built the human being. We're all in denial, and that's a good thing. It allows us to function as members of society, but it's a very, very bad thing because it makes all of us believe that we have more time. You know, none of us are going to die today. It's certainly not going to happen to us even tomorrow. But there are people in our lives that we need to make good decisions and to protect the future survival of the people who blindly trust us. And the people who blindly trust us are our spouses and our children. They don't have a say so, or normally don't say much about what we're doing or what we're not doing. So if you want to connect, again, there's my YouTube channel at Brian Shey. You can visit. I have a webinar podcast page on my website, which is sterlingwyatt.com. There's a click here to schedule, a webinar follow-up. That will give you access to my Calendly, or give you access to my calendar. And then you can jump on that and we can have a conversation. And I'll throw that out there also. If you're using your life insurance policies as banking policies or debt reduction policies or whatever it may be, and you've been in them a number of years, all life insurance policies are not created equal, is how I would say that. In your first year, you can normally overfund those tremendously more than in year 2 and year 3. And then it even possibly changes depending on the carrier after year 3. So again, I would highly recommend that you review those with the agent that helped you put them in place. And if you need a second set of eyes to look at them, normally I can look at a life insurance policy in about 42 seconds and figure out exactly what you're doing and make sure that it's fitting the need that you designed it to be. Take the time. I think the whole world is busy, right now with everything, but most of the information that we talk about is fairly important. I will say this just because I see a couple different names. We talk about the protection investment tax component when you're starting to near retirement. My other question there is, do you believe you're going to spend through your estate? I have a very deep belief that what you spend 30, 40, 50 of your lives working for a living, whatever you've spent your lifetime accumulating financially, should transfer within your family. I don't believe the government of the United States should get one penny when we pass away. Give it to a charity, give it to your family, give it to your kids, grandkids. Transferring generational wealth from one generation to the next is not hard. It's actually very easy, and properly designed, that will happen. But when you think of the question, do you believe you'll spend through your estate? Most people will say no. And then I answer that with, I would agree with you, with the exception of some type of catastrophic health event that does not kill you. You can plow through millions of dollars in a very, very short period of time without properly protecting either yourself and your spouse from some type of catastrophic health event. You can blow through millions in a very short period of time. So transferring some of that risk to an insurance carrier makes a tremendous amount of sense. And don't wait. I'm 52. I made that decision when I was 45 for my wife and I. Take that off the table so you can make sure that, again, your financial accomplishments should be preserved, transferred within your family, and not go to the government whenever you pass away. Here's a question. What's the easiest way to add things to a family trust, i.e. house mostly? This is from an anonymous. So what I would tell you is go back to the attorney that drafted your family trust. For example, for my personal situation, the attorney who drafted my trust, which, to be blunt, I literally found him online. I knew a lot of attorneys, but didn't really want to put my personal stuff with some of those attorneys. So I found a gentleman here locally. Took us 2 weeks, a couple Zoom meetings, and my wife and I went over and signed everything. And one of the best things that he did for me and my wife is he gave us the directions on how to do that, how to retitle our house into the trust, how to retitle bank accounts into the trust, told us exactly what I needed to tell my banker to do. Again, highly recommend that you get a private bank or a personal banker. Highly recommend that you work with a small community bank for things like this. Don't be a number with one of the 900-pound gorilla banks in this country. Get a relationship with a small community bank that you can pick up the phone or call the cell phone of your banker and say, hey, I need this done. Your attorney should be able to provide you a very user-friendly, one-page, maybe front-back page document on how to go and retitle, whether it be your IRA accounts, whether it be your 401k accounts, whether it be retitle the house or other assets that you may have, and retitle them into the house. It's an interesting conversation right now because I recently, like 2 weeks ago, ran across some mail where I had to talk with the property appraiser in my community where I live because of retitling the house. And they wanted to make sure that I didn't lose my homestead exemption with my home. And the attorney did do it the right way, so I didn't do that. So that's a long answer to a short question with respect to what's the easiest way to add things to the family trust, i.e. your house. Just go back to your attorney. They'll tell you exactly how to do it. Really good, really good. At least I thought the questions were good. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of that. Anonymous, you're welcome. Happy to help any way that I possibly can. Here in the next couple of weeks, I was actually going to have investment advisor, investment strategist on today's call. Got to work through the compliance department in his world to be able to make that happen. But I'll have that on. I've got a number of alternative investments in the multifamily syndicated world, which is basically a fancy way of saying apartment complexes that are being built all over the country around the universities. I'm going to have someone come on and talk a little bit about that here in the next few weeks. If there's a topic that I haven't covered that is near and dear to your heart, or that you guys would like a little bit more information on, then I can certainly email me at Shey@sterlingwyatt.com is my email account, or just reach out to me somehow, let me know, and I'll happy to get that onto the docket. So going to say, enjoyed being with you guys today. Hopefully you guys gleaned some information out of that. Again, pick it up on the YouTube channel. And if there's other people in your neck of the woods that needs to hear the information that we're sharing, then feel free to reach out to them, get them tied in, send them the registration link, and we'll go from there. Good being with you guys today. That's all I got. So we'll see you guys next week. Again, good being with you guys. See you.